Have you noticed lately how the little things that used to be so easy now take an extra moment? Like trying to recall where you left your keys right after you set them down, or finding that a quick chat with a neighbor leaves your thoughts feeling a bit scattered afterward? Or perhaps you've started waking up some mornings with this vague heaviness in your mind, as if everything is moving through molasses, making even simple decisions feel more tiring than they should. It's the kind of thing that makes you think, well, this is probably just what happens when you get into your 60s or 70s, part of the package deal with more years behind you. But let me sit down with you here like we're sharing a quiet afternoon and tell you straight from everything I've seen and studied over more than 20 years working with seniors. A great many of these changes aren't sealed in stone by age alone. So often they connect right back to what your nights look like, how well sleep is actually helping your brain, or how much it's falling short without you fully realizing it. And the biggest part of my work has been sitting with people, just like you, listening to their worries about memory not being as reliable, about getting irritated over small matters that never used to bother them, or about this steady fog that settles in and makes even pleasant parts of the day feel like more effort. Nearly everyone who comes through my door has already decided this is simply the natural slowdown that comes with time, something unavoidable, that everyone faces sooner or later. But when we start talking about their routines, especially what happens once the house gets quiet and the lights go off, a different explanation usually comes into view. The main thing quietly wearing down mental sharpness and emotional steadiness isn't typically too much sugar, constant stress, or family genes by themselves. More often, it's the everyday sleep patterns that have slowly drifted over the months and years, small changes that build up until thinking feels heavier, recall takes longer, and moods aren't as even as they once were. The hopeful side, the part that keeps giving people real relief, is that those same patterns usually respond very well to gentle, practical shifts. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, nothing that turns your whole day upside down. Sleep does far more than just give your body a pause, so you're not dragging when morning comes. In the deeper, quieter stages, the slow wave sleep that pulls you down into a heavy, peaceful place, and the REM sleep where dreams float through, your brain turns into an active nighttime maintenance crew. It carefully clears away the waste products that build up from all the thinking, remembering, deciding, and feeling you do while the sun is up, keeping the brain's inner environment clean so everything can work without clutter. It strengthens the tiny bridges between brain cells that hold memories in place, making sure the details from yesterday, a phone number someone gave you, what your grandson said at dinner where you parked at the store, stay put and don't fade as quickly. It repairs small wear and tear in those neural pathways, so thoughts can travel fast and clear without getting stuck or delayed. And it gently works through the emotional tones of the day, any little frustrations, happy moments, or quiet worries, so you wake up feeling more balanced instead of carrying yesterday's leftover feelings forward. When nights get broken up with frequent wake-ups or don't reach those deeper stages consistently, this vital overnight work gets shortchanged or left half done. That's when the signs appear first in daily life. Putting a complete thought together takes noticeably longer, familiar names or facts slip away more easily, concentration drifts off without much warning, and your mood can feel uneven, overly sensitive, or strangely flat, even when the day itself is calm. The National Institute on Aging has reliable numbers showing that almost half of adults over 65 have some kind of ongoing sleep difficulty. Yet more than 60% of those same people view their sleep problems as either not serious or just a normal part of getting older. They often miss how those restless or shallow nights slowly erode mental quickness and emotional steadiness over the long run, month after month, year after year. The process happens without any dramatic signals. No sharp pain, no sudden crisis, just a gradual, quiet softening of how sharp and dependable the mind feels. Having gone through countless studies and listened to hundreds of real-life accounts from patients, one pattern stands out clearly every time. When it comes to what keeps a senior's brain working well, sleep habits frequently emerge as the single biggest factor, and one that is genuinely open to improvement. So let's walk through this together in a relaxed way, like we're having a long, easy conversation with no hurry. I'll explain the 5 most common sleep habits that quietly undermine brain function for people in their later years, then go over straightforward adjustments supported by careful research from Harvard, Stanford, the University of Colorado, Johns Hopkins, the University of Michigan, and the National Institute on Aging. These are practical steps, not complicated theories or difficult demands. They're realistic changes that have already helped many seniors feel their minds brighten, their moods settle, and their focus come back stronger. If it feels right, type your age in the comments when you get a chance. I like knowing who's here listening and who might be thinking, that's exactly what I've been noticing. One of the most common starts with bedtime that shifts from night to night. Perhaps one evening you're tired after seeing family, so you turn in early. The next night a television show holds your attention longer, and weekends follow their own pattern. That kind of variability unsettles your body's internal daily timer, the circadian rhythm that coordinates when you feel most awake. When memory pulls up details quickly, when concentration stays firm, and when emotions remain steady. In your 60s and 70s, this rhythm becomes a little less adaptable, making consistent signals even more important to keep everything running smoothly. At the center sits a small brain region called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock that depends on reliable cues, especially the same wake-up time and bedtime every day, to stay properly aligned. When bedtime changes significantly, the brain has difficulty scheduling complete periods of deep, non-REM sleep, the stage that's essential for taking short-term experiences and turning them into long-term memories you can access later. Researchers at the University of Colorado followed 300 adults across 8 years and found that inconsistent sleep timing was linked to roughly 30% faster decline in episodic memory, the ability to recall specific events, conversations, or experiences, even when total sleep hours looked adequate. So getting 7 or 8 hours doesn't give full protection if the schedule keeps drifting. Sleep's true restorative power depends on predictability. The brain performs best when it can rely on deep recovery, arriving in roughly the same nightly window. Another habit that builds quietly is staying in bed while awake for prolonged stretches. 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, sometimes longer. It seems sensible to stay put. You're already comfortable, the room is dark, so sleep should come if you wait it out. But the brain forms associations quickly through repetition. Remaining awake in that environment teaches it to connect the bed with alertness, rumination, planning, or mild worry rather than effortless drifting into rest. Over weeks and months, this weakens the bed's role as a cue for relaxation, leading to lighter, more fragmented sleep with frequent brief awakenings throughout the night. Imagine your bed as a calm, private refuge meant only for sleep. Lingering awake transforms it into a place where mental activity continues instead of quieting. A detailed study by Johns Hopkins University tracked 250 adults aged 65 and older and found that those who regularly stayed awake for long periods in bed had 42% more nighttime awakenings and higher morning anxiety scores. That subtle increase in edginess often appears as quicker irritation over minor things, greater difficulty staying engaged with a book or conversation, or a vague sense that mental steadiness has slipped, even for people who never previously struggled with noticeable anxiety. Then there's the pattern of going to bed unusually early, often at 7 or 8 in the evening, because it feels like the logical way to get more rest. The intention is good. More hours in bed should mean more recovery, but the body generates natural sleep pressure through a sufficient stretch of wakefulness and gentle activity during the day. When bedtime arrives too soon after rising, that pressure hasn't built adequately, So even though someone spends 9 or 10 hours in bed, the actual time in deep slow wave sleep and dreaming, REM gets noticeably shortened. Slow wave sleep clears metabolic waste from brain tissue and firmly embeds factual knowledge and skills in memory, while REM sleep processes emotions and supports flexible, creative thinking. Without enough prior wake time, neither phase reaches its full duration or depth. The University of Michigan examined older adults with early bedtimes and discovered their REM cycles were approximately 20% shorter than expected, despite the long total time in bed. This pattern can closely resemble early signs of cognitive decline, hesitation in finding common words, slower mental processing, occasional moments of confusion, but because the cause is timing rather than irreversible damage, adjusting the schedule frequently restores a significant portion of previous function. The brain remains capable. It simply needs the proper conditions to perform at its best. A fourth factor that often surprises people is exposure to even small amounts of light during the night. This could be a hallway light left on for safety, the soft glow of a digital clock, a brief glance at a phone when you wake, or light leaking from under a door from a television in another room. Even low levels of light signal to the brain that it's not fully dark yet, suppressing melatonin, the hormone that promotes smooth sleep onset, sustains deeper stages, and offers protective effects to neurons against routine, daily stress. Reduced melatonin results in lighter, less consolidated sleep, slower clearance of brain waste, and weaker memory formation. Stanford researchers studied adults 65 and older and found that even dim nighttime illumination cut melatonin production by about 50%, leading to shallower rest and measurably poorer memory performance the following day. Most people tend to downplay this influence because the brain doesn't send an immediate alert. The decline accumulates gradually, making it easy to attribute the changes to age rather than an adjustable environmental factor. Finally, depending on sleep medications night after night for extended periods deserves attention. They can be useful short-term during high stress or travel, but when taken every evening for 6 months or longer, particularly benzodiazepines or similar, they commonly reduce time spent in deep slow-wave sleep and REM sleep. Those are precisely the stages where the brain carries out its most effective waste removal, memory reinforcement, and emotional recalibration. A key study published in JAMA Neurology examined seniors using benzodiazepines nightly over long periods and reported a 23% reduction in slow-wave sleep. This stage plays a critical role in clearing proteins like beta amyloid that can accumulate and contribute to cognitive issues if not removed regularly. A person might believe they've slept sufficiently because they were unconscious for hours, yet the brain has missed portions of its essential nightly repair, resulting in gradual effects on mental clarity, mood stability, and reliable recall. The truly encouraging reality is that none of these habits inevitably causes permanent or irreversible harm. Brain science in later life shows remarkable resilience, the ongoing capacity to recover function when conditions improve. Even well into the 70s, 80s, and beyond, better sleep support leads to meaningful, noticeable gains. The right approach isn't fear or drastic change. It's thoughtful awareness followed by small, kind adjustments that better match how your body naturally wants to function. To bring this home, let me tell you about two people whose experiences illustrate exactly what I've seen happen again and again. Margaret was 72 when she first came to my office. She looked worn out, her voice quiet and a little unsteady as she explained how frightened she felt. "I honestly think my mind is slipping away," she said. She'd walk into rooms and freeze, unable to remember her purpose, search for everyday words during phone calls with her daughter, and come up empty, and feel a creeping anxiety that made her question herself in ways she never had before. She managed about 8 hours in bed most nights, but bedtime varied, sometimes around 9, other nights closer to 11, and she frequently spent nearly an hour awake once there, thoughts spinning through worries about family members, her health, or what the next day held. We began the rest protocol together, a clear, step-by-step plan I'll describe in detail shortly. Margaret followed it with quiet determination. When she returned after 6 weeks, the change in her was plain to see. Mornings now felt around 80% alert instead of the 40% she'd described initially. Nighttime awakenings dropped from 4 or 5 to 1 or 2 at most. The anxiety softened considerably, replaced by a returning sense of confidence. Memory still had occasional small lapses, but she said it felt like her brain had finally been given the rest it had been missing. During one visit, she smiled and said, "I was so sure this was permanent. Turns out my brain was just completely exhausted because the nights weren't letting it recover properly." Harold, 68, arrived proud of his routine. He went to bed at 7 every evening to make sure he got plenty of rest. Unfortunately, he'd wake around 3 and lie awake for hours, growing more frustrated each time. Memory testing showed mild weakening in short-term recall. He'd relied on a low-dose sleep medication for years to help him fall asleep. We started by locking in a consistent wake-up time, no matter how the night had gone, then gradually delayed bedtime while reducing evening light, and with his doctor's input, tapering the medication. His sleep tracker showed deep sleep increasing by 35% within 8 weeks. Word recall tests improved from 15 out of 20 to 19 out of 20. The stubborn morning mental fog lifted completely, and his mood stayed noticeably steadier throughout the day. Later, he told me the protocol had essentially restarted his body's natural sleep-wake rhythms, finally allowing his brain to carry out the overnight repairs it had been missing for so long. Stories like Margaret's and Harold's aren't unusual. Over the years, I've watched hundreds of seniors achieve similar, trackable improvements: sharper thinking, more stable emotions, steadier daily energy, once their sleep patterns received careful attention. The framework that consistently produces these results is the one I call the REST protocol. Rhythm for consistent timing, education about building natural sleep pressure, stimulus control to strengthen the bed-sleep connection, and timing to optimize bedtime. Rhythm begins with selecting one realistic wake-up hour that fits your daily life, perhaps 7 o'clock or 7:30, and rising at that exact time every morning, including weekends and even after nights when sleep was short or broken. This fixed daily marker powerfully reinforces your internal circadian clock, increases sleep drive as the day progresses, and encourages fuller, deeper restorative sleep when night arrives. Harvard research showed that seniors who kept consistent wake times saw deep sleep improve by 30% within just 2 weeks. The first few mornings after poor sleep may feel challenging, but the body usually adapts quickly, delivering stronger, more predictable nights as the reward. Education here means deliberately supporting the natural buildup of sleep pressure. Limit daytime naps to 20 minutes maximum and finish them well before 3 in the afternoon so they don't reduce your nighttime sleep need. Right after waking, get bright light exposure for 15 to 20 minutes. Natural morning sunlight outdoors works best. If weather or season makes that difficult, sit near a bright lamp or turn on several overhead lights indoors. Combine this with gentle movement, perhaps a slow walk around the block, some easy, seated stretches, or light household tasks like making the bed or preparing a simple breakfast. These elements keep daytime alertness higher, which then translates into deeper, longer nighttime sleep, giving your brain more opportunity to complete its essential overnight tasks. Stimulus control addresses those frustrating periods of wakefulness in bed. The rule is straightforward. If you've been lying there 20 to 30 minutes or longer without falling asleep or after waking during the night, get up quietly. Keep lights very low. Use a small, warm-toned nightlight if needed, and move to another room or comfortable chair. Choose something calm and uninteresting to do. Slowly page through an old magazine without focusing too much. Fold a few pieces of laundry. Listen at low volume to soft instrumental, music, or nature sounds, or simply sit practicing slow, steady breathing. Avoid anything activating. No screens, no television, no exciting reading, no mental planning or problem solving. Return to bed only when genuine sleepiness returns. This technique systematically retrains your brain to associate bed with rest rather than wakefulness or frustration. Johns Hopkins researchers found that seniors using stimulus control reduced nighttime awakenings by 42% over 6 weeks, with many also reporting a calmer overall approach to sleep difficulties. Timing focuses on settling into an ideal bedtime window for most seniors, typically between 9:30 and 10:30 at night. This range usually aligns well with your body's natural evening melatonin increase and provides sufficient overnight hours for multiple complete sleep cycles, ensuring plenty of time in both deep slow wave and REM stages. If your current bedtime is quite different, adjust gradually, shift by about 15 minutes later every 3 or 4 nights until you reach the target. Moving slowly helps avoid temporary rebound trouble, falling asleep, or excessive daytime tiredness. The University of Michigan observed that seniors who moved toward this optimized timing improved their scores on cognitive tests by 15 to 20% after 4 weeks, largely because extended deep and REM phases supported stronger memory consolidation and more stable emotional regulation. To help everything work more effectively, actively keep artificial light low after sunset. Switch to warm, low-wattage bulbs in lamps and hallways, cover or dim any glowing device screens or clocks, and establish a routine that avoids phones, tablets, or television in the hour before bed. Preserving melatonin levels makes falling asleep smoother and allows the brain to carry out its protective, reparative work more thoroughly overnight. If any medications, whether for sleep or other conditions, seem to influence your rest, have an open conversation with your prescribing doctor about whether small adjustments might better support natural sleep patterns. When you follow the rest protocol steadily, benefits tend to appear in a natural, progressive way. The first week often brings slightly more consolidated sleep, fewer interruptions, a modest increase in depth, and mornings that feel a little less heavy or sluggish. In the second week, falling asleep usually happens more easily. Daytime energy gets a gentle boost, and any underlying tension, irritability, or low mood starts to soften. By weeks 3 and 4, more noticeable improvements emerge. Recent events or conversations come back to mind more readily. Attention holds steadier during reading, talks, or hobbies, and emotions stay more even on busier days. After a month and continuing onward, deep slow wave and REM sleep settle into reliable patterns. The need for long daytime naps drops away, and overall mental clarity feels more consistent and familiar. The process is like a slow, careful reboot of your brain's daily rhythms. Each day adds a small layer of strength until the overall effect becomes substantial and life-affirming. To be very clear, the rest protocol is not a cure for dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or other progressive neurological conditions. It is designed to optimize sleep so it can provide the strongest possible support for whatever level of brain function you currently have. Never discontinue or adjust any prescribed medications on your own. Always consult your doctor first. If you live with diagnosed sleep apnea, significant heart conditions, depression, or similar health issues, speak with your physician before making substantial routine changes. The safest way forward starts slowly. First, secure the consistent wake-up time for a week or 2, then gradually shift bedtime, incorporate morning light and movement, and add stimulus control once those foundations feel solid. These are low-risk, safe adjustments backed by research showing real benefits for brain-supportive rest. Here's what I'd like you to consider trying. Pick just one element from the rest protocol that seems manageable in your current routine, perhaps committing to that fixed wake-up time every morning, slowly moving bedtime later in small steps, cutting back on evening light, or practicing getting out of bed during prolonged awake periods, and stay with it diligently for 30 full days. Keep simple daily notes about how clear headed you feel when you wake, how steady your mood remains through the day, and whether memory or attention feels even slightly more reliable. When the 30 days are up, come back here and leave a comment describing what you experienced. Your honest account can quietly encourage someone else who's wondering if it's worth the effort, and sharing it helps reinforce your own progress in a gentle way. The brain that has walked with you through decades of life, the happy seasons, the difficult ones, the ordinary quiet days, truly deserves ongoing care so it can keep serving you well instead of being quietly accepted as an inevitable part of getting older. We'll pick this up again soon with another everyday habit that many people overlook, yet one that holds surprising power to ease persistent brain fog in seniors. I'm confident at least one suggestion will prompt you to rethink something you thought you knew about staying mentally sharp. If you've stayed right here with me through the whole conversation, type "ready for clearer days" in the comments below. It would mean a great deal to know we made this journey side by side. Take good care of yourself tonight, allow plenty of time for rest, and hold on to the quiet truth that small, consistent steps often bring back more mental lightness and strength than seems possible at first.